We will be live any second now.
Okay, exciting.
And and hi everybody, and how lucky I am to be interviewing the one and only Ziggy Hanaor, who has painted her decor to be in what's the word? Um, with my t-shirt. And Ziggy is the first time this is
That's right. It's all color coordinated.
coordinated. That was the word I was looking for. Because you spent time in Israel. When I look at you, I want to speak to you in Hebrew, and then I have to go back to English. So very confusing. So Ziggy, welcome to the show. And I am Mel Rosenberg, and I am the host of the Children's Literature Channel of the New Books Network. And wow, also a publisher and also a wonderful, wonderful author. And
Thank you.
in our little schmooze before, I mentioned that I've really never met an author like you who really doesn't hold any punches, even for 6-year-olds. So please, we're going to celebrate your brand new book, Life. Um, I forget. I keep forgetting. I keep practicing, and there's brackets. The
It's
world,
life as we
the
know it. Here,
universe.
I'm going to show you. This is it. Life as we know
Uh,
it.
exactly. I'm going to practice. So no, show everybody and talk about it. This is your opportunity to shine.
Well, shall I say a little bit about myself and the company first?
No,
Um,
no,
just
not really.
just the book. Go straight
Yeah,
into the book.
I know you. We're going to talk a lot about yourself and your
Okay.
company. So yeah,
Okay.
just straight into
Just
the
start
book.
about the book. Okay, so this is a nonfiction book, and it celebrates the origin of our planet and the life that inhabits it. So it's basically a story of evolution from the very beginning until today. But it's written in a quite a lyrical style. So it sort of captures the poetry, which is the kind of like incredible miracle of life, and it's brought to life by this wonderful illustrator called Cristóbal Schmal, who is originally from Chile, living in Germany, and he also brings his own artistic glory to this book. So it's nonfiction, but it's quite unusual nonfiction.
Ziggy, read us the spread. Show us one of your favorite.
Okay, all right, all right. I'll begin at the beginning because that's the only place to start.
That's where we started. A dot
That's
so much smaller than a grain of sand.
so we know this much is true. We think this much is true. We think this much is a truth. In the beginning, In the beginning, which was not a beginning, because time did not exist, everything in the universe was concentrated in a single point smaller than the point on this page. Far, far smaller. A singular point, 10 zillion times smaller than a grain of sand. And then, and then the singular point exploded into time and space and matter, and the universe was born. This is called the Big Bang. That swirled and swirled until places it joined and became a new thing, a thing that was held together by a powerful force. This force is called gravity, and galaxies were formed and solar systems with stars in their centers that burned gases so hot that the particles in their core collided and created huge energy. Shall I stop or continue?
Well,
I might
usually,
stop. I'm going to leave it there.
yeah,
You
no,
can,
usually I ask the authors to stop because I don't want to get into trouble with the publishers.
right.
Um,
Well, I am the
it,
publisher. That's
you are
totally
the
fine.
publisher.
Yeah.
You know what I want you to read, Ziggy? I want you to read the ending of the book. The ending
Okay.
of the book that most people would say this is not for kids.
Okay. All right. And dark. So, well, I mean, it's hard to do the actual ending because I guess I'll sort of skim through a little bit. So
No,
we
no,
have we have it sort of
the,
follows the path of evolution from the tiny cells that eventually photosynthesized to the explosion of life that was the Cambrian explosion, to the emergence of fish, to then tetrapods, to reptiles, to dinosaurs. It covers all of the extinction events that happened along the way. And eventually the dinosaurs are wiped out, and it's the rise of the mammals. And some mammals started to swing in trees, and those mammals were called primates. And eventually a very smart primate emerged, and that was called, and this species of ape began to walk upright. It could see the world around it. Its arms were free to use tools. This species was called hominid, and the hominids roamed in packs. They learned to communicate simply at first and then with more complexity. And 300,000 years ago, a new species of hominid appeared, and it had the biggest brain of all. It could communicate not just with a small pack, but with a giant tribe. It could outsmart even the biggest and most terrifying predator. This species is called Homo sapiens, or human. And the humans multiplied and spread. They learned new things every day. They told stories, and then they worked together to make some of those stories real. And new things happened to the planet, not because of the volcanoes that erupted, although they continue to erupt, not because of the Earth's plate shifting, although they continue to shift, but because humans made them happen. They cut down forests for wood. They traded shiny rocks with each other. They dug up fuel that had been hiding deep in the earth for hundreds of millions of years. They burned the fuel to stay warm and to move places and to make things. The other animals couldn't keep up with the powerful humans, and many died out. And next, the changes will keep happening. The atmosphere will warm, and glaciers will melt, and sea levels will rise. But the Earth will continue spinning. It will keep going round and round the sun, and life on the planet will change too. Some life will disappear, but then more life will appear, and then that life will die, and more life will appear. This is a story. We think this much is true, but we don't know for certain because some things don't make sense, like the tears in the fabric of the universe called black holes where nothing can exist, not even light, and the tiny particles of matter that somehow appear in two places at once. And we wonder whether there are infinite universes, whether time has any meaning, whether the light that shines down from stars that haven't existed for 1 billion years is the light that fed a planet just like ours, or nothing like ours, filled with life as we know it, or life as we don't. And that is the end of the book.
It's hugely philosophical, and it talks about death and renewal, and you have a lot of guts to publish a book like that.
Thanks.
So now we're going to segue to where Ziggy got her guts. So so talk about your life from when you were born and so on.
Well, I mean, my life is, just a life. But I guess the reason that I'm allowed to be
every courageous person will say that,
Well, I mean, I think the thing that allows me to basically take risks is that it's my company. So nobody's going to stop me. And that's an amazing position of privilege. I feel very lucky to be able to run a publishing company. It's not an easy thing to do. I've made a lot of mistakes.
You own the company.
Yeah, it's my company. Yeah.
So, I don't know if anybody told you this, but do you know how much guts it takes?
Well, it takes guts and it takes someone else to earn some money because it takes a long time to make money in books. So, I mean, it's taken a very long time for the company to really work, and I feel incredibly lucky to have had this opportunity. And I take it really seriously. Like I think I have a responsibility to take risks both on illustration and content. And yeah, and that's what I do. And I don't have to answer to an editorial board. I mean, the sales are obviously really important. I need the company to make money. And I have distributors who sell the books into bookshops. So Thames and Hudson are my distributors in the UK, and I've got Lerner in the States. But ultimately the buck stops with me. And when mistakes happen, they're my mistakes. And when things go well, that's, momentary validation.
Well, I have interviewed publishers of relatively small companies. And I would say that usually they try and go for the convergence. And this book of yours, which I find fascinating and highly recommended, and I saw that it's recommended for 6 to 12-year-olds, and that's perfect. It's a really philosophical, somewhat existential a look at the universe and life, and it's really challenging children to be young scientists. And as an ex-scientist, I really love it, and I congratulate you. But it's not like the kind of thing that a regular publisher, a small one, would say, "Oh, let's go for the Michigan here."
Well, yeah, sorry.
So start out with the very young Ziggy, and we'll try and figure out what made you who you are today.
Well, I mean, I moved around a lot. My dad's an academic, my mom's a librarian. I spent a lot of time in libraries. I didn't have a TV growing up, which was, obviously a source of deep pain. But it did mean that I read a lot. Um, and and I think I've always been kind of a visual person. I think illustration and visual communication has always been something that I've been drawn to. And perhaps in like
Oh,
another
what
life,
a fun. I love that. I love that.
yeah, right.
Illustrations.
Um, yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, in another life, I would have gone to art school, but that I ended up studying drama randomly in Bristol. I lived in Israel, and I left Israel when I was 20, and I moved to the UK to study. And I studied drama, and I worked in television as a script editor for a while. And I really liked working with writers, and I really liked working with story, but I didn't really like it's a very kind of like big, quite political world television. And so I sort of, it was the early 2000s, so you could just segue because there were jobs to be had. And so I managed to segue into publishing, and I worked in art and design publishing, so doing kind of art and design books for adults. And I had some success. Like I worked for a small independent company, but like I commissioned books that did well. I guess I was probably like overly confident. And and when I got pregnant with my first child, I was like, I don't want to work for anyone else. I'm gonna set up my own company. I'm gonna just like do it for a while, whilst my kids are tiny, and then I'll go back into the publishing world. But like to be honest, like once I was doing it for myself, I was like, I'm never working for anyone again. So basically it started off very slow and my kids were tiny. I was doing 1 or 2 books a year. And then it sort of gradually picked up. And I really wanted to work with illustrators. I mean, the world of illustration is something that I feel like I instinctively connect to. And weirdly, so this was sort of maybe like 2015, 2016, like the world of Instagram was really changing the landscape of illustration. Illustrators traditionally like basically live in caves drawing, and and it's quite a solitary pursuit. And Instagram really opened up the world of illustration, created a community and a discourse around illustration. So it was kind of good timing. And I really wanted to work with illustrators, and you can't really do that very much in adult books, which I actually think is very sad. Um, but that's how I sort of ended up in children's publishing. So I moved from art and design to children's, and my official first year I consider to be 2018, which is when I published the first picture book from Cicada. And that's what I've been doing ever since, just working with illustrators. It's a very illustrator-led process, which is quite unusual for a publisher. Most publishers work with agents. It's quite an unusual way to kind of like let your illustrators kind of lead you
So,
places.
this is my next question. So how do you because you have a separate, unique way of illustrator-led a publishing, and how does this work for someone who doesn't illustrate? Run this by me, please, and everybody else.
So okay. So I mean, I work like basically I find illustrators whose work I really love. Like I don't see it very often, but like when I do, I know. And and then I set up a Zoom with them and I'm like, what do you want to do? What's the book that you want to do? So I have to so I'll just explain. So Cicada publishes between 8 and 10 books a year. About half of them are nonfiction, and that is the bread and butter of the company. Like the nonfiction books, I'm guaranteed to sell, and they can be on like that. I love doing nonfiction books as well. I mean, life is nonfiction, but in my mind it's sort of like somewhere in between. Most of the books are more traditional nonfiction. I've done a book about sleep, about natural disasters. When I say we, the company, has done books about these things. Fossils, empires, and the way the basically I feel like I've slightly digressed, but basically, I speak to an illustrator, I find out what interests them. If they are somebody who can do nonfiction, that's great. We find a subject that interests us, that is sort of vaguely, I know I'm going to be able to sell it. I know I'm going to be able to sell foreign language rights, which is very important. Um, and then I get writers and I get consultants to advise, and we put the book together. Alongside the illustrator. So the text is sort of written, and I know what the illustrator kind of wants to draw and is kind of leaning towards, and it's a sort of back and forth between me and the writer and the illustrator, putting the nonfiction books together. The fiction books, the picture books and stuff are a combination of things. So very occasionally you get an amazing illustrator who can also write. That's pretty unusual because illustrators tend to be visual people. Text and structure is not usually their strong point, but occasionally you do. There's like a few writers I've worked with who are brilliant. Sven Volker is great. Lydia Brankovic.
So let's shout out to Professor Sven Volker,
Yeah,
who actually introduced us, which is
yeah, that's right. So I mean, Sven is hi Sven. Sven is like an amazing, like he's just an amazing conceptualist. Like he comes up with these incredibly smart ideas, and then he has the vision to kind of like visualize them and to kind of bring them into life. And Lydia Brankovic, who he actually taught, wrote the book that is most successful for the company at the moment, which is The Grand Hotel of Feelings.
the hotel book.
Yeah, and that's been translated into 26 languages. Yeah, and that's
written in his course.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was her graduate project, so she did it when she was like 23 or something. Yeah, and so with those books, like I mean, I'm very involved editor, so I'll help them restructure it. I'll help them kind of find the shape to it, because often, especially when it's your project, you have a sense of it, but it's like that's the joy of like the editorial role, is kind of saying, okay, this is working, but we need to change this into first person, for example, or we need more of a kind of like structure towards the end, like we need a kind of nicer out, whatever it is. So that's sort of one of the ways in which I work with illustrators, but every project is different, and every it's all very organic.
And many small publishers, the publisher is also an author.
Yeah,
and you're also an author. So
that's right.
these books, the one that I love so much and can't remember the name, because it's called Life as We Know It. So this, how was the evolution of this book, Oy vey? But
Okay, so that is basically, so I worked on a book called Stones and Bones, which is a book about fossils, and it is the story of life on the planet. It's a much more traditional nonfiction book. I can actually show it to you if you want. Do you want me to? Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, sure. It's your show, Ziggy.
Okay. Well, this is Stones and Bones, and this is like a sort of this is illustrated by an amazing illustrator called Sophie Williams, and her partner Rob Wilshaw, who's an amateur, well, actually a qualified paleontologist. So this was a collaboration between the two of them, and I worked really closely with them editing this book, and it sort of blew my mind. So this is Through Fossils, the story of life on Earth, and it's like a much more traditional nonfiction book. And I found myself like telling people about this book because it was like such a revelation to me. I don't know whether like maybe I wasn't listening in science classes when I was a kid, like, but this is like all brand new to me. Like the kind of the way in which kind of like the planet, like there was nothing. It was just like this ball of like molten rock. And then like magically, like this miracle, these cells appeared and they breathed and they reproduced and they started photosynthesizing, and then the atmosphere filled with oxygen, and then all these other creatures emerged. And I found myself at a party telling this friend of mine the story of evolution. And as I was telling it, I was like, this is a story. And this is like, and I found that I could tell it very concisely. Like I could sort of like eliminate like 90% of the text, and the story still held. It still worked as a story. And yeah, and I went home that night and I wrote it. So yeah, that's how it came to be. Yeah, and then I sort of wrote it, and I wasn't sure, like it almost felt too ambitious, like it almost felt too like too arrogant to be able to kind of like say it like that. It seemed like a kind of, especially as a non-qualified scientist or anything. And I wasn't sure about it. And then I was talking to Cristóbal Schmal, who's the illustrator, and we were trying to find a project to work on, and we were sort of bouncing ideas around. And I was like, oh, I've got this text. Like, I don't know whether it's like crazy or like not. And he was like, no, we're doing it. It's like, this is happening. So that's it. that happened.
Fantastic. No, I mean, there's a lot of guts in this book for so many different reasons. Because essentially, as you acknowledge, we really don't know very much about our universe.
No, and that's why I say it's a story. It is a story. Like, I
Uh,
don't know.
that's why I like it. I mean, if a scientist had written it, it would have been, and I'm speaking now on behalf of all scientists. It might have been different.
Yeah.
And also, I can see the wonder in your eyes and in your story. Like, you're writing it, life as we know it, and it's like I'm reading and I'm saying, oh, my Ziggy's like, you know, wow, 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 wow.
Yeah.
But towards the end, there is this sort of teaching thing, that we are destroying our own planet. Um,
Well, I mean, I think it's just like, again, I don't really like books that preach. I don't really like books that tell, and I also really don't like books that that give false reassurance. And one of the things that really annoys me at the moment is like endless books saying like basically if you recycle, the planet is going to be fine. Like it's not going to be fine. Like things are not okay. And I have no interest in lying to children because children know when they're being lied to. And and I think it's really important to give children what facts we have, which is like this is happening. And and that's scary, but also the world is bigger than us. Like we are just like we've been here for 300,000 years. That is like nothing. Like that is nothing. And we will be gone. Like and life will continue. There will be something else. And maybe we'll leave something behind. Who knows? But what I don't want to say is like it's all going to be fine.
no, that's what is so brave and gutsy about you and this book. And I really, it's so funny. I just reviewed a book for adults on evolution. So it was interesting to compare. And I must say that I was reading your book just the other day, and I live near Tel Aviv, and it's November, and it was like 30, 31 degrees, which in Fahrenheit, I don't know, it's about a million. Um, it was like a hot summer day.
Mm.
And it's getting like this every year now. We're getting into winter, and I'm reading your book, and I'm saying, oy vey, I want to be optimistic, and then you hit me with it. But it's a bravo book, and a few more, and so the Alte Sache, this wasn't
Mhm.
your idea either.
No, that was my idea. Altazachan was my idea. I mean, those two books are actually books that I wrote in advance. Sometimes I write books alongside an illustrator. Now, Altazachan was actually like I wrote that for PJ Library back in the day. I mean, I was like, oh, I want a part of the PJ Library pie, and so I was like, what can I
What's
do
that? What's
that?
that? What's that? Not everybody
Oh,
here is Jewish. Not everybody knows the miracle is PJ Library. So a few words about PJ Library.
well, maybe you should do a few words about PJ Library.
No, you do it because
Well, I
it's
mean,
your
I don't.
program.
I
It's your
mean, PJ
program.
Library is basically like it's a charity that does Jewish themed books, and basically gives them for free to anyone from the Jewish community who wants
or
them,
or almost for free.
or almost for free. And
In
they do huge
Israel,
print runs,
in
like
Israel,
massive print runs.
yeah. Well, I'm a what's the word? A beneficiary,
Hmm.
because my recent book, Emily Saw a Door in Hebrew, was
Hmm.
just published in a 50,000 print
Wow.
run for kids here in second grade in Hebrew.
Yeah,
So there's an Israeli arm called
yeah.
Sifriat Pijama, which also publishes books here. So I'm only going to say nice things about them these days. So you wrote that book to send
So I
to
wrote that book
PJ?
to send them because they were looking for middle grade books. And I was like, what can I do that feels honest? Because I mean, my connection to my identity feels very personal. I don't feel particularly part of like the community in a way. Like I feel very Jewish, but I have I keep a wary distance of community, I guess. Um, and I didn't want to do something that didn't feel right. And so I wanted to do it. So anyway, I wrote this book, and it it's an old lady and her grandson walking through New York, buying ingredients for Friday night dinner. And
It's a crabby old lady.
she's a really cantankerous, like grumpy old lady. And like, and basically like the city is not as she remembers it. Like her connection to her community, that her connection to the city is not there anymore. And it makes her really angry. And so she's like really foul to like the girl at the checkout who's got like piercings and is kind of like gothy. And and the butcher who is like, is he really kosher? Is he really kosher? And and then she feels like he's ripping her off. And then there's like a hipster vaping, and she like tells him to stop smoking, and he's like, it's a vape. And she's like, and he's sort of tattooed, and she's like, tattoos, I know people with tattoos. And
Ziggy,
so it's sort of like,
this has to be autobiographical. There has to be a story
well,
here.
that's sort of like it's an amalgamation of like, a lot of old Jewish ladies. But it's also, to be honest, like I'm sort of more Benji than Bubby. Like, I feel, and so Benji is, so she's walking through like being pretty confrontational and difficult, whilst also kind of having her own memories that have sort of fed into this kind of like prickly exterior. And her grandson sort of like doesn't have that connection to Judaism, doesn't have those kind of references, like is who he is and sort of accepts the city in a kind of very kind of like wide-eyed kind of way. And I wanted to look at that. I wanted to look at that experience through this intergenerational divide. Um, and I don't know, I just wrote it. And I liked
And
it. And I wrote it and I was like, yeah, that's kind of good.
but
And
who's the Bobby?
the Bubby is actually not like, because my grandparents were not like Bubby. My grandmother on my dad's side was German, but like they moved to Palestine in 1933, so they were not of the Polish Pale of Settlement community. They were young Zionists in Berlin. Like they were kind of, they were sort of like they're like
But Ziggy,
Yekes.
that Bobby is so. I mean, it's like not my Bobbies, but other people's Bobby.
Yeah, no, I mean it's
Um,
mostly my friend who
okay,
I grew up with. Like it's sort
yeah.
of her Bobby,
So
really.
it's like
It's an
a
amalgamation. I mean, it's in Israel. Like you
yeah.
meet a lot of those Bubbies one way or another.
It's like a Maurice Sendak send up of his aunts and uncles somehow.
Exactly, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's a wonderful book and it's already won
Thank you.
awards.
Yeah, yeah. It was shortlisted for the Carnegie, and it won the V&A Best Illustration Award, which is a very big illustration award. Because Ben Phillips is an amazing illustrator, like
Yeah,
just
do you have the book to
incredible.
show us a
I
spread?
do, I do. I have it right here. Look, here we go.
It's so gorgeous.
Thanks. I'll show you. I'll show you one of the spreads. That's Bubby. That's Bubby
Hmm.
and Benji. Um, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Ben, I'm actually doing another book with Ben at the moment, which is an adult graphic novel.
Wonderful.
And I
Yeah.
love working with him.
I don't know much about New York. These are actual places in New York. This is like from your
Yeah,
experience.
I mean, yeah, I lived in New Jersey as a child, and then I lived in New York for a year in 2010. So I guess like I guess I feel a connection to New York, but it's more of a, yeah, I mean, New York is like a concept anyway, isn't it, really? I mean, there are
Uh,
like it's
Look,
like, I mean, the concept of New York, especially kind of for a Jewish community, is something kind of like that transcends the actuality of it. But yes, I mean, the places are places that I know, like, there's areas of Brooklyn and the Upper West Side, and they sort of traverse the city
look,
over the course of the book.
I think that all the good books are mosaics, from our
Hmm.
memory. And
Yeah.
my recent book is about a girl going from door to door to try and seek acceptance and welcome. And I just remember the other day that I used to sell products door to door in Ottawa.
Oh, there you go.
And I said, "Oh my goodness, that book is about this too." So I think that sometimes, a year from now, I'll remember some other thing that happened to me and say, "Oh, that's in the book too." I,
Yeah.
I'm not sure we always know what we write about.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true. You write it and then you look at it and you're like, oh my God, like that's really exposing. Yeah.
Uh, Absolutely. And so what happened with PJ Library?
Oh, they didn't want it. Like it wasn't for them, which was like fine. So I shelved it. It was like I was like in a folder on my computer for like maybe 2 years. And then a similar thing with Cristobal. Like I saw Ben's work on Instagram. I was like, I have to work with this guy. Like I just have to. And and then we just couldn't find a project. And then I sent it to him. His maternal grandmother was Jewish, was actually kind of a similar character. So he connected immediately and was like, yes, this is the project. And then he slaved for like 2 years putting this book together. Because, I mean, a graphic novel is like a million times more work than like any picture book. I mean, it's really, Life as We Know It was a really big project because that's also almost graphic novel format. But Altazachen was like even bigger. And at
Yeah,
least with Life, it's part of the coloring is digital. Ben does everything analog, so it's like with light books, it's like he does the pencil and then the inking and then the ink washing. Like it's incredibly laborious, and he just did such an amazing job. So,
and then you have also the music one. That's a graphic novel type of book.
oh yeah, that's YA. That's just come out. That's actually not out in the States yet. That's Everything Amplified. This is a teen graphic novel. It's about twins, teens, and what is it? Twins, tunes, and teenage turbulence. Sorry, I forgot my elevator pitch. Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
that's you forget the pitch. I forget the name of the books, but
yeah, that's right.
somehow
We get there eventually.
somehow we manage. So,
Yeah.
your people can send you material,
Yeah.
but you publish only 8 books a year.
I thought we publish 8 books a year. I mean, it's a very small company. It's me and one other person, and then we work with a lot of freelancers. I mean, I don't really take on books by writers, like just because, like, I mean, I write. I have people who I work with, and I guess if like the most amazing thing fell on my plate, I might. But basically, if I take on a writer, that means that I'm splitting the royalty between the illustrator and the writer, and I really like working. I really like the illustrator getting the money because they work so damn hard for it. Um, so that's sort of part of it. That's obviously not the only reason, but I basically like illustrator led books. So if an illustrator sent me a portfolio, and they don't even need to send me book ideas, if they sent me a portfolio and I really liked their work, then I would have a Zoom with them and like we'd find a project to work on.
So
But yeah,
people,
I don't want to give anyone false hope. Like
yeah,
it is a
no,
really small company, and actually my lists are pretty full. So
yeah, no,
um,
let me somehow manage the expectations. Okay, Ziggy has a beautiful boutique publishing house. She publishes very few books. Your chances are less than one in a zillion, like the grain of sand in her new book. However, every grain of sand came from somewhere.
it is.
So if you are an outstanding illustrator,
Yeah.
and you feel that you're not run of the mill, whatever that is, then it doesn't hurt to try.
No, and you can reach out to us on Instagram. Like, we read. I mean, that's probably the best because then I can immediately look at your work and see if it's like what we're looking for. Because and when we basically we're pretty much mostly looking for hand drawn illustration styles. And you can look at our books. It's cicadabooks.co.uk. Have a
Um,
look at
um,
kind of like what we publish. If you think your work fits into it,
unless
reach out.
unless you're an American, which is Cicada Books,
Oh, cicada book. Yeah, cicada. So cicada, cicada. Yeah,
potato,
tomato,
potato.
tomato. Yeah, exactly.
So so we are unfortunately running out of time, and this happens in a world that is based on time. You see.
Terrible.
So what advice do you have for? So we'll put authors. Well, because you're also an author, I mean, so share some advice that you have.
I mean, I don't really have any advice. I think every author approaches things in their own way, finds their own way to it. For me, I'm a very fast writer. Like when I have an idea and I can kind of feel it, I sort of feel it in its entirety, and then then I have to do it immediately because if I wait, it might dematerialize. But that's the way I write. Like my partner is a writer; he writes for television, And he's really slow. He's super slow. But he's amazing. But it's like his process is like it's like a much slower metabolism. It's kind of like he sort of digests and filters and it all comes out in its own way. So yeah, I have no tips really.
And for the poor illustrators who, first of all, work for peanuts, and
Mm.
also the chance of breaking in the traditional publishing world is so slim. Um, I'm sure that you go to Bologna, perhaps we'll meet this year, and illustrators, beautiful illustrations all over the place, and so hard to break
Yeah.
in. A few words of advice.
I mean, illustration is like music. It's like I mean, it's like you have these incredibly talented musicians, and you're like, why is that one successful and that one not? I honestly couldn't tell you. Um, there are some incredibly talented illustrators. It's a cutthroat world, but it's like anything. It's like musicians. It's like if you want to make music, you're gonna make music. You're gonna keep doing it, even if you're not making money from it. And the same is true for illustrators. Like a lot of the illustrators I've worked with have like, they in fact most illustrators I work with have other jobs. They work at schools or they teach or whatever it is. Or they work in a cheese shop, in one case. But like, that's it's like, but they do it to keep their art alive, and they keep their art alive however it needs to stay alive. And then, you know, and I love them for it. I really love my illustrators.
Which brings us to the last question for today,
Yeah.
because I definitely want to have you on again. The time just, I can't believe we've spoken for 40 minutes already. So we'll talk about the elephant in the room, named ChatGPT, Claude, so on and so
Oh,
forth. And like I sense, Ziggy, that you're old school.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I guess I am old school. I mean, look, I can't, I'm not old. I don't want to be a dinosaur. I don't want to kind of like, I don't want, you have to stay abreast of things. You have to engage with things. I do use ChatGPT. I actually find ChatGPT quite helpful because like I can use it almost as a junior editor. I can write things and I can ask it to rephrase it, and then I can kind of like, and then I can edit what it gives me back. Like, and that is a super helpful tool for me. I would never ask ChatGPT to write a book, and I would
I,
never ever
you don't, you
ask
don't,
ChatGPT.
you don't have to. Can I
No, I
help
don't.
you? Can I write your book? Can
No,
I
but I mean,
hide in your?
I'll tell you though, Mel. For nonfiction, there is that temptation of like, but unfortunately, ChatGPT lies, so I can't rely on it. So it's actually a fairly easy temptation to resist.
It's a
I mean,
ter
for
it's a
the
ter
picture, for anything fiction, I mean, there's no, of course, like, there's no point. But the thing that I feel very strongly about, and maybe it's because I'm not an illustrator, is that I will never use AI for illustration. Like, for me, that would be a terrible betrayal of like the fundamentals. Like, I'll use it for writing in a very specific way, because that's my métier, and I know how to control it, and I know how to make that okay. But like, never for illustration, no way.
And finally, Ziggy Hanaor.
Mm-hmm.
What is your real name? Not Ziggy. It's
Sigal.
Sigal.
Cicada,
That is such a beautiful name.
which means cicada in French.
Aha. Okay. Et maintenant, we understand
Mm-hmm.
tout l'amont de Ziggy.
Exactly.
Okay, so we found some secrets today.
You did.
Anything else? Anything else you want to divulge while we're still on the air?
Not really. No, I feel like I've divulged quite a lot.
You have. So this is a time to wave your gorgeous book, Life as We Know It.
Which one? Life
Uh,
if we know it.
yeah, Love as We Know It and Life as We Know It, which is a wonderful brand new book. The illustrations are, I'm going to say, out of this world, literally and figuratively. And it's a thought-provoking book that doesn't hold any punches, nonfiction, but overwhelming in several ways.
Thanks.
Um, and congratulations on that. And congratulations on Cicada. I didn't know who you were when I saw Sven Folker's books. And it was like, oh my goodness, who publishes these amazing, incredible? And now we've had a chance to meet, and I thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you,
So
Mel.
I've been here with the author and publisher Ziggy Hanaor, aka Sigal, and I'm Mel Rosenberg, talking to you from the Holy Land. And I am the what am I? I'm the host of the Children's Literature Channel of the New Books Network. And Ziggy, we're going to send everybody else home. Run out and buy her books, the ones she's written and the ones she's published. They are really, really gorgeous.
Thanks.
Ziggy, thanks. We're going to go and come back to the same link and send everybody
Okay.
else to learn more about you and your wonderful.
Okay, you want me to leave and come back or stay here?
Yeah, everybody else is just going to leave. You have
Okay.
to leave and come back.
I have to leave and come back. Okay. See you later,
It was
everyone.
great. Thank you.
Bye.